welcome to my channel. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to stay up to date. And if you're already subscribed, thank you for coming back and showing your support. So today, I'm gonna be giving you a first look and unboxing of the brand new Apollo x16D. So let's unbox it first, see what comes inside, and then we can talk about it. So inside the box, you're going to find this box here that has the power supply. We can check that out. So this is the included power supply, specially designed for the Apollo X, especially the rack units, and a power cable, which is, depending on the country you live in, this is a D plug for the United States, 110 volts, and also a getting started guide that shows you how to register your product and download the UAD software. And here's the brand new Apollo x16D. So the Apollo x16D stands for Dante. In the back of the unit, you're gonna find that it has two Ethernet ports, one primary and one secondary. This could be set standard. That means one Ethernet cable goes to your computer and the other one can go to your console or through an Ethernet switch, or it can be set as redundant for more advanced networks. You also have two XLR analog outs for local monitoring and AES digital in and out. There's a word clock connection for syncing to other devices, or if you have a master clock and you wanna sync into it. And finally, you have two Thunderbolt ports, one for your computer and the other one could be for multiple Apollo interfaces or any other Thunderbolt device, and your power connection. And because of the Dante connections, you can use this for live sound or for immersive audio. This unit can also do AES 67 at 48K, which is a protocol used by a lot of speaker manufacturers, which means with one single Ethernet cable, you can connect to a network switch, and from the network switch, distribute to all the speakers digitally, and you can control all those speakers from your monitor control. Or if you have an Apollo Twin connected on your desktop, for example, to this unit, you can actually control all that from the Apollo Twin. It becomes a monitor control. So one great advantage to the Apollo ecosystem is that you can expand. I can connect this in my studio where I have an Apollo X16, XAP, and a Twin. I can add one more unit, up to 4 interfaces at the same time, and have more inputs and outputs through Dante and also analog on the other devices. You can have up to 1 desktop interface, which means 3 Apollo racks and 1 desktop, or 4 Apollo racks with no desktop interface. Routing for all the Dante devices is done through the Dante controller app, and on the new console 3.0, there's a section on the top that shows you your current Dante routing. So in order to use the new Apollo x16D, you're gonna need a few things. First and most obvious is the included power supply, a Thunderbolt 3 or 4 cable to your computer, an Ethernet cable. For Dante networks, it's recommended to use a Cat6 cable. You can use something like a USB-C adapter, so you can connect the other end of the Ethernet cable and then the USB-C into your computer. So to recap, if you're using it on a simple setup where you have a computer, the Apollo x16D, and a live console, for example, you don't need an Ethernet switch. So in this next part of the video, I'm gonna show you how to connect and route the x16D with the live console. Okay, so in this setup, we have a Yamaha DM7 console and an Apollo x16D, my computer, and also a playback computer, all connected through a network switch. So currently the computer is sending through Dante 16 channels into Yamaha DM7, and then from the Yamaha DM7, we're inserting on each channel into the Apollo x16D. So we can insert a plugin on a specific channel, let's say our lead vocal or kick drum, guitar, whatever channel you want, but we can also do a master bus insert. We can do a mix bus insert. So for example, I can apply plugins on my master bus. In this case, I'm using a bus compressor and an EQ, but I can also insert on individual channels. In this case, I have, for example, a reverb on a mix bus. So I can send my vocals, or guitar, or whatever instrument that I want to that effect. Instead of using the internal effects that I have on my console, I can use effects on a stereo channel, inserted through Dante controller in my console. So in this scenario, you're gonna need a gigabit Ethernet switch that we have right here. And then we have each device connected to that switch. So for example, the Yamaha DM7 is connected to port number 1, It doesn't matter with the order of the ports. Port number 2, we have the computer for playback. Number 3, we have my computer. And then port number 4, we have the Apollo x16D. If you have more devices, you can connect them to that network switch. And if you want to do a redundant system where if something fails on network switch number 1, everything happens on network switch number 2, you can repeat the whole process by connecting the secondary ports on your Dante devices onto a second network switch. So this is how you will route the insert process on a Yamaha DM7. Obviously, it depends on which console you use, but most of them have a similar way of patching an insert. So if I want to select an insert point, for example, I select my A, and I can use my premium or built-in effects if I want to, but I'm gonna select outboard and I'm gonna enable it. So what that's doing is telling the console that I don't wanna use the internal effects, I wanna use the outboard effects, which are gonna be through Dante. And then on my outboard patch, I'm gonna select my output and my input. So this is gonna send into my Apollo x16D, and then under input is gonna return from my Apollo x16D. So I'm gonna select to output, and I'm gonna select Dante if it's not already selected. And in this case, I have Dante 17 through 32 available because I'm using 1 through 16 from my computer. So Dante 17 is gonna be my output. And then under my input, I'm going to select the same thing, Dante 17. So now I have to make sure that that insert is enabled, because what we did right now is selected as my routing, but it's not on right now. So this is one crucial step. You have to turn it on. So now my sound is going from my channel into my Apollo x16D, and then on my Apollo x16D, that channel is returned at the same time on Dante 17. So one extra really cool thing that you can do with any console and the Apollo x16D is that you can send program change. And what that allows you to do is to change settings on the UAD console side from your actual physical console. So for example, in this case, I'm gonna use this section here where I have my setup where it says MIDI. Now the connection is USB. So from the back of the DM7, I have a USB-C cable connected straight to my computer with USB-C. And I want to make sure that I have my program change selected as transmit. So TX means transmit, obviously RX means receive, but I don't want to receive MIDI information onto my console. I want to send from my console onto my computer. And under program change, which is what this console does, some consoles do program change, some other consoles do note. So I want to go to program change and I'm gonna send on channel 1. I saved a couple of scenes, for example. So every time you save a scene, in this case, I would call it UAD test 1 and test 2. So I have to say, what do I want to do? So for example, when I recall my scene, for example, I want to touch here and then touch where it says scene and select the scene that I want to do. Test 1 and I click OK. Then I go to the second one, for example, and I do the same process, but I'm going to select a different scene. So now when I recall the scene here from my scene menu and I press the recall button, what that's going to do is it's going to send program change information to my UAD console and all my plugins are going to be recalled. So for example, if I press recall on the test 2, now it's going to be a completely different set of parameters that are going to be sent to my UAD console. We have a scene section where you can find all your parameters that you can save and update every time you want. So if you have any questions, put them down in the comments. Thank you for watching this video. Like and subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with new videos and all things Universal Audio.